Hi, I'm John Hasty. Can I go PA employer? I employ personal assistants and I've done so for the last, well, yeah, about 15 years. And so when I go traveling, um, then I need to bring my PAs with me. I, I travel for lots of different reasons. Sometimes this is for work, and, I may be going to a conference or like giving a talk or a presentation somewhere. Um, Sometimes I'll just go away for holiday for fun. So I might go for 1 or 2 weeks. And, this might be in the UK, it might be in another country. Um, that might involve traveling to the country as well. Um, could say sometimes I travel with family. Uh, 'Cause they're all quite different trips. But I think from a PA point of view, it's the same kind of thought process that you need to go through when planning and preparing. So in terms of planning, I need to think about the equipment that's going to be there. So whether that's like a hoist, a profiling bed, uh, or other equipment, I need to make sure it gets there. But so that might require bringing our own equipment. It might require hiring our equipment. In terms of travel, if I go by train, then I'll need to book assistance and make sure that's all in place. If I'm driving, I need to know how far the drive's going to be, how many drivers I have, what's the kind of schedule for setting off and leaving, and making sure that PAs are able to do that. Um, and so yeah, equipment, travel, and just also thinking about backups and contingencies. Thinking about if I'm going to like another country, because could use the power set up right, do I have like the right adapter plugs? Can my equipment run on different levels of power? Usually they can. I just need to make sure I bring everything I need. Uh, Also contingencies, so like if the hoist fails, what's my backup plan? Like you have a frame move sling that's basically a kind of hoist sling that can be used for manual lifting if it came to that. Also things like bed raisers to go under the bed. So sometimes you can't get the hoist under the bed. Uh, so you need to think about potentially raising it. Uh, Sometimes beds are very difficult. Like they may have a complex frame underneath that you need to try and raise quite carefully. But it's generally better to check the bed situation before you travel so you know what you need to make it successful. And in terms of preparing my PAs for trips, I just like to make sure they got all the information about where we're going and when we're going, go also the rota to like what shifts they're expecting to work when they're there. I do need them to be a little bit flexible for potential changes, delays in transport, that kind of thing. But yeah, I try to make sure that everybody has as much information as possible, that they are kind of experienced with doing my care routine, and that they're willing to be adaptable and flexible. I usually try to avoid taking somebody away if they've never been away without having more experienced PA for them to like call to rely upon if anything happens. Um, so yeah, if I'm traveling by plane, that can be quite complicated. Uh, in terms of making sure my wheelchair is looked after when I'm not in it, to make sure I'm as comfortable as I can be during the transfer, make sure PAs understand what's likely to happen, and the process of things so that they can uh, potentially advocate on my behalf if I'm in a position where I can't do that for myself. Uh, Things like, somebody needs to like be take care of my wheelchair when I'm transferred out and onto a seat to go onto the plane or onto a hoist. They need to be able to make sure the airport can get like staff understand what's needed to look after my equipment. Um, there's usually a whole process that you have to go through with the company in terms of like make sure you provide all the information about your ventilators. I just like to make sure PAs understand the process and what they should and shouldn't say in terms of communication, because you don't want them to, you know, say something that when they're not sure about the answer, can, then it sparks a whole load of like questions and interrogation, like if they don't know what kind of batteries I have, so I make sure they all know that information first. Um, in terms of conversations, I usually just try to explain to people what it's going to be like on the trip away, and give them things about like when they're going to be able to get rest. Like, I like to try and give them options in terms of, well, they can travel with me, but I'm going to be, because it might be more convenient for them to do that, but I'm going to be traveling at a certain time and arriving at a certain time. The room's going to be ready, at this time, this is when you'll be able to sleep. So they can make decisions as to how they get there, whether they come with me or they make their own way there and I reimburse the costs. In terms of maintaining clear boundaries, I think it's about communication about what you need and when. And yeah, when like in accommodation, like to try to give people their own space and uh, give them they give me the space when I need it. And I think really it's just also about being flexible and fair. Like I try not to ask them to do anything I wouldn't be comfortable doing. Because I try to make sure everything stays consistent. Like if I said they're going to finish at a certain time, I try to make sure that definitely happens. Because as far as I can, uh, and just really not throwing anything unexpected at them. Um, and just expecting them to go with it. Um, sometimes it happens that it's unavoidable, but I really try to be as fair as possible. In terms of most challenging travel experience, I think one of those was maybe when I was traveling with my ex-husband, and I felt like we weren't considerate enough of the PAs. There was a lot of traveling between places and not really enough time for people to get like a good rest after doing a night shift. Um, and I think, yeah, I think what I learned from that is just trying to accommodate everyone's needs. But yeah, the tricky thing I had was dealing with my ex-husband didn't really understand or feel the same way I felt about being fair and considerate with PAs. And I think sometimes you may need to put your foot down or just make sure that you're doing things the way you want to do them, with PAs, not being pressured by family and friends, to do things that you're not comfortable asking from, from PAs. And I think being fair and consistent is important, but you need to balance that because sometimes I think I avoid doing things because I'm worried about the PAs and actually maybe it's okay, particularly when you're on holiday and special occasions, to ask them to maybe go the extra mile. Can, can even just, just asking them, see if there's something you want to do to see if it's possible, um, rather than just assuming, oh, no, that's going to be too difficult. Because PAs often want to make sure you have the best, like, life that you can, and they don't mind doing the kind of the extra bits to really get that uh, kind of value from the job of like feeling like they've helped you achieve something that you couldn't do without them. So I think, yeah, don't be too restrictive on yourself. In the name of fairness and consistency with BAs, just communicate with BAs sometimes be willing to ask for a bit more. Uh, give it if they say no, that's fine. Give them the choice. But yeah, don't like self-censor yourself almost. I think in terms of other advice for stable employers, I think it's really just about sharing as much information as you can. Often that's something that we forget. We just take for granted that we have BAs, they're under contract, they're paid to support you, but actually I think just committed communication creates goodwill. And I think showing that you're fair and do everything you can to minimize the burden on them means they're more willing to help you when it comes to something that you really need help with. So I think, yeah, to try and be fair, try and communicate well, give as much information as you can. Um, don't throw people into the deep end. Uh, give them a chance to talk to you about any concerns. Could you just try and make it a pleasant, like, experience for everybody, really? I usually try to be quite fair as much as I can within my budget in terms of paying people a little bit extra. When they do come away, but doing they just recognition for the fact that they're not at home, they have to be like where we are at all times, even if they're not working. Like they've still got to be there. So I think just recognizing and acknowledging that when you can. I know budgets don't always permit that, but if you can make it work, I think that's a good step to take. So, yeah, in terms of some of the questions we've had from BAs, I try to tell people that about job plans as far in advance as possible. Sometimes that isn't as long as I would like, because I don't exactly know which BAs I'm going to be able to take, and give people as much information as I can uh, in advance, particularly in terms of where we're staying, and the timelines of the waiter, those kind of things are really important because then people can go look it up for themselves as well. Um, yeah, I don't ask all my PAs to come away with me, but I usually try to address this when I'm recruiting people, like, are you going to be able to come away with me on trips? To make sure at least I got some team members that are willing to come along, um, but appreciate that it's not an option for everybody. Um, yeah, I do try to listen to people, um, and just think about what I'm asking them to do, um, and make sure that I'm not overwhelming them with things I need to ask for. Make sure people can take breaks. Sometimes they're quite long days, but sometimes they're just being aware of like when I'm in a situation where I don't need somebody, just giving them a bit of time for themselves to do what they want to do. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I think that's pretty much everything. And now I'm going to bring in my PA, Sarah, just to share her experience of supporting me rather than why. Okay, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yes, my name is Sarah Wilson. I am John Hastie's PA, and I also do some of his admin, so kind of a PA admin assistant, but both.
Great, thank you. Okay,
Mhm.
so yeah, okay, we're talking about when we go away, uh, when I travel on holidays and stuff. So to start with, like, what does it involve for you as a PA when I'm traveling and like, how does that differ from what you do like every day at home with me?
Um, so I would say it's quite different. Am I answering on as just a PA, or am I also touching on the admin side in terms of that prep?
Yeah, I guess both because you do both for me.
Yeah. So packing is like the key part. It's really quite intense in the sense that it's very important that we don't forget things. So there's a lot of going back and forth, um, checking list on list, making sure that we don't forget any important medication, medical equipment, day-to-day stuff, but really it's quite important that everything's packed. And then logistically, it's making sure that every step of the way, wherever we're going, we have something in place that is accessible. Is to eliminate the hurdles of travel. Preparation is key in terms of going through the journey yourself and what hurdles you might face once you get going.
Yeah, yeah, no, that sounds good. And in terms of like preparation for what's needed from you and what do I do in terms of the preparation side?
As in what's needed from me as a PA to prep for
Yes,
you to go
like
away
compared to what I do, like
day
what do
to
I
day.
do and what do you do for me kind of thing.
Oh, okay. So are you not talking about the packing side and the equipment side?
But just everything, anything you do to prepare.
Wow. So it's, I guess, everything that we would do normally, plus in terms of it depends how long you're going for, but it's really thinking about everything that you could possibly use over the period of time that you'll be away and making sure that you have that would be key. Am I getting it right?
Yeah, can
Okay.
say, I mean, yeah, usually I provide a list
A
of what I
list.
want to, like,
Yes,
but on top of that, you're kind of trying to think of anything I may have forgotten, grab, or,
exactly.
yeah,
I guess using my skills as a day-to-day PA to make sure that we have the basics, which I take whenever we go out for short trips, and then cross-referencing it with your list. But also your list will be specific for the type of trip that you're going on as well. So it's not just going to be like the same list every time you travel. There'll be
yeah,
like a UK one, a going abroad one, depending on what you're taking.
yeah. Kind of in terms of, like, for you as a PA, just, like, what preparation do you do? What do you need to do?
To for going away, so pack light.
Yeah,
Definitely light because there's always going to be quite a bit to carry for you because you've got all your stuff and yours is as a general rule a lot more than the average would take because it's just so much more medical equipment and anything else that we would need to keep you safe. I would pack as light as I possibly could based on how where we're going and what I need. You don't want to be taking anything you don't need because you will have to carry it.
yeah, yeah. And, what about kind of like in your personal life?
Oh, so
Whatever
for
you'd
me,
like to share in terms of like, what do you
so
need to do if you know you're going to be going away?
okay, so exactly. So for me, obviously, I have children, so childcare in terms of prepping for that is making sure that at no point whilst I'm away will there be any problems that I could preempt kind of thing. I don't want to ever I can't be called away basically. It's not a case of like I guess you could say in a different kind of role if something cropped up at home and you were away you would just go home and that's not logistically always possible, especially for you because it would mean you would have to come with me potentially worst case scenario. So it's making sure that that is all organized. Um kind of travel, I guess. If we're depending if we're going UK, it would be kind of determining where we're going, what time I need to be there, do I have all the details that I need to get there? Have I looked at all the logistics of it in terms of train times? If I'm catching a flight, when I need to be there, how long before do I need to check in for any of that? All of the normal stuff you would do to travel alone, and then also the stuff we would need to do to travel for you.
Yeah. And so obviously there's like schedules and deadlines. But is there anything else that you need to know, like from me as an employer when we go away?
So usually you personally would issue a rota in advance. So I would obviously it would be different to my regular shift patterns, but I would have a total oversight of what shifts I'm working whilst away. So I can already know kind of I could work out how many hours I'm doing for the whole trip, but I can also see when I'm resting to enable to me to kind of plan when I'm going to relax and when I'm going to sleep and when I'm going to kind of make sure that I'm eating right because it's important that you take care of yourself because it is quite tough
Yeah,
when you're not just traveling for you and I'm
yeah,
like an extension of you. It's making sure that I take care of you as a priority, but I also need to take care of myself so that I can continue to take care of you as the trip progresses
Yeah. Mhm.
because it's quite tiring.
Can so when things go wrong, can
Mhm.
like or things change unexpectedly,
Yep.
how how do you kind of handle that? Because I know we've certainly had instances
Hmm.
where things haven't worked out, things might be
Yep.
inaccessible. Can we need to change what we're doing?
Okay, so it happens every trip, possibly even multiple times. I would say it's really common. It would be unusual to travel somewhere and something not crop up, minor or major, that would need a kind of solutions-based approach. It's important that you remain calm and then you just think of the logistics of how we can get the end result, but maybe change up the original plan. For example, I think we went to Paris once, and when we got home very, very late, I believe there was a tube strike. I can't remember why, but there were no trains, and so I think, we were London based, and but there was no possible way of getting home. And then the person who had the keys to your van, who wasn't supposed to be picking us up, had also was not able to come to where we were to pick us up. So it kind of involved arranging a chain of PAs to go and collect the van keys from one PA to get back to yours to pick up the van. But it was a complete change, and it was after a very long day of traveling as well. So it's kind of having a backup plan, I would say, so that you know that wherever you are at every stage of your journey, you kind of have an idea of, should this go terribly wrong, and let's say the trains cancelled, planes cancelled, what's the next steps for us to get where we're going in the quickest time possible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like the idea of kind of staying calm and staying positive, focusing on
Yeah,
solutions.
I
Yeah.
don't think being negative at any point or being kind of defeatist, it doesn't benefit or me or you, kind of thing. It
Yeah.
doesn't get. And I think the most important thing is, it's not always going to go to plan. It very rarely does it go to plan, and it's realizing that that's not the end of the world, and that there will be a solution. It might not be the exact solution we were hoping for, but as long as there's kind of a plan in place to get to the end goal, albeit a different route, that's fine.
Yeah.
And
I think I find that helpful when you're like, do you take that attitude because I might be wanting to
have,
stress out or panic, so it's
yeah,
kind of good to
both of us being
not
stressed
be
doesn't help.
having someone else who's stressed. Yeah.
And it does, you share that, don't you? Like, if you're feeling
Yeah.
particularly stressed, it can roll over to us, or vice versa. If I feel stressed and you're already feeling stressed, it doesn't benefit anyone. It just makes us feel bad. There's
Yeah.
no point, and we're not getting to
Mm.
where we're going. So,
So how do you manage your fatigue during the kind of longer trips?
so I find with trips sometimes, because you don't always get to plan, for example, meals or even like bathroom breaks. It's not always like convenient when you need to go. So it's making sure that you do go and do what you need to do, but then as soon as you finish that shift, do whatever you haven't managed to do. So eat if you need to eat, and then just as soon as you can, rest and almost force yourself to rest so that you have the longest amount of sleep possible between shifts. There is nothing worse than being away and being tired,
Yeah.
because that rolls over day to day, and before you know it, it's really hard to then maintain that calmness and positivity. And also, you tend to make more mistakes if you haven't had the right amount of rest.
Yeah.
It's just a given. So rest is key. Food, rest. That's all you need to when you finish. It's just food and rest. Everything
Yeah.
else can just on be a back burner.
Cool. But how do you maintain like professionalism uh, when you're kind of traveling closely together? Uh, Particularly, if you might be in a stressful situation, that kind of thing.
I think again that comes back to the positive attitude. I don't
Yeah.
think you can ever really be unprofessional if you're kind of looking to be the best that you can be and bring that positivity always. I think to not be professional would then be slipping into that negativity or that moaning or that kind of snippy attitude where things haven't gone wrong and you've gotten a bit of a strop about it, and that's where it kind of seeps into unprofessional behavior. I think as long as you keep that positivity and just kind of solution based mentality, I think that's how I personally maintain it.
Yeah. Cool. That's good. And what skills would you say are essential for a BA who travels with me?
Um, being able to adapt to any situation. Also, really being strong on safety because you're going to find you get used to the daily routine when you're here with you. And the second you go away, yes, it's the same routine, but it's not because no one PA is now putting anything back in the same place. So you'll have, for example, I will have started a day shift, for example, after a night person, and everything that I am looking for that is part of your getting up routine will now not be where I would expect it to be. So there's that is quite a tricky thing because that is also when you can kind of feel yourself getting a little frustrated because you just want to be able to do the routine as quickly and as well as possible, but you can't find the mouthpiece because you don't know where the I don't know where the PA before me has put it from the night before. So that is definitely key because it you need to be strong on what you're doing because there's going to be little frustrations that definitely aren't the usual routine.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. And what has been your most rewarding travel experience?
Ooh, Paris, hands down, when you did the public speaking competition.
Mhm.
Apart from the prospect of having to go on stage to collect your award because you won. For you, I'm sure that's the greatest achievement. For me, the fear I felt at the side of that stage that I was going to go and have to get the award with you was not worth it.
Call that my ventilator might malfunction while I was
Yeah, it was all day.
on
It was
stage, and you had to
on
be
and
in front
off.
of
Yeah,
thousands
I
of
think you had
people.
a 5 minute speech, didn't you? And I was just at the side of the stage, and there was how many people? 1,500, I
Okay, yeah, I
think.
think so.
And
Yeah.
I was just willing that that ventilator did not beep for the 5 minutes you were speaking. Like if anything happens, just not for 5 minutes. But it was fine. But all day it had been playing up, hadn't it? So I was really worried. But that was my
Yeah,
favorite trip by far.
but yeah. Okay,
So
it's
yeah,
funny because, I'm okay with being on stage, but yeah, but it's difficult then if you need help. Okay, you
yeah,
need somebody else who's comfortable, kind of being there.
yeah,
Oh.
exactly. Which I definitely didn't feel super comfortable, but it didn't happen. So all is well.
Yeah, so you managed to find somebody else to go on stage. One of
Yeah,
our,
exactly. So
one of the
happy.
other PAs who just taken over.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just a shift changeover, and I was like, "Oh, you have to go on stage, Max. Sorry."
Okay, so finally, any advice that you would give to other PAs who may be traveling with their employer?
Um, I would just, I guess the biggest bit of advice is remembering that we are kind of an extension of you and really making sure that you're the priority always, but having that mentality that kind of you still have to take care of yourself a little bit because me being exhausted doesn't benefit you and it makes me less good at my job. So just making sure that you're mentally prepared for that. It is probably a little bit harder than your day to day PA tasks, but I find it rewarding because you do get to experience some really awesome things that realistically I would never would have gone to Paris and experienced that side of things. So for me, it's a really great thing to do, but you do have to kind of just mentally prepare yourself that it's going to be longer, harder, but it is worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So there were a couple of questions from other PAs. One of them was like, what happens if plans change? Could
Mhm.
you end up working longer than you expected? Like,
Yep.
how do you deal with that situation?
I mean, the best part about working for you is that I know these things do happen, but that's quite a priority for you as a person that you really are strong on trying to eliminate those factors so that we never have to work longer than we need to. So when it happens for me personally, it's unavoidable. It's not something that kind of you've done everything in your power to make sure that we're not at that stage. So for me, it's kind of like, well, it is what it is, and we're just going to have to power through
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's not like as an employer you are constantly like pushing over those hours. You are really strict on my shift finishes at 6, so I need to go at 6,
yeah,
and it's important to you as a person. So when it happens and it's not the case, and because it does happen because life happens, then it's not it for me. You just power through and you stick it out because it's unavoidable. There's no
yeah,
other solution.
yeah.
So
Like if it was a situation where you were concerned about something or something was clearly not working, like how would you raise those concerns with me?
In terms of are you talking about medical equipment, or are you thinking like just
No, I
work?
think of like what you're expected to do. Company maybe you're not comfortable with something you're expected to do, or
Okay, so that's
maybe things are kind of when they somebody gets sick and then lots of people are working too much. Good, you're struggling with it. Like,
okay.
how would you kind of raise that with me?
Um, that for me would be a face-to-face conversation with you, and it wouldn't be a big deal for me personally because I would just approach you about it. And I don't know whether it would be a this is everything that's wrong and I'm not happy about this. I think it would be like I've done with you before sometimes, and I'd be like, I am concerned about this. This is playing on my mind. What can we do about it? And you can go,
Yeah,
oh, we'll do this and fix it. Or you can go, no, it's fine. And I'll be like, okay, so let's do this differently. And then I feel more relaxed.
yeah.
So
Okay,
that's what I would do.
great, cool. Well, that's all the questions. So thank you for
Thank you.
participating.
No problem.
Great. Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.